Hi everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I like to create a fur texture like this where you've got those whiter details that are overlapping the darker fur. Now this would be the case if you're working with a dog that's slightly older and does have these greyer details over the top, or potentially if you are working on a breed like this that's got more of the wiry, coarser fur, a little bit like the Wire-haired Jack Russell or the Border Terrier. Now this dog here is a little bit of both, so he is an older dog and also a little bit more of that coarser texture. So I need to make sure that I've captured both elements in my portrait. Now as you know, if you've seen some of my other videos here on YouTube, I always start off with the eye first. So I'm going to include that in this section of the tutorial, but predominantly we are going to focus on the fur around the eye itself and get it up to about where it is on the left side. How I layer this fur is quite specific. So to look at this to start with, it's one of those fur types where you think, do you draw the white details first and then draw your black fur around it, or do you start off with your darker layers and build up your whiter details but potentially run the risk of not getting those white details as bright? They are a couple of the most common questions that I know I ask myself when I am drawing dogs like this. Now, regardless of the animal or the fur texture that I am drawing, I will always get a good solid base layer down first. Now here I'm using my oval shaped soft tool and I'm using my PanPastels here, just a black, a mixture of a couple of the greys and the white as well. Not too much white. You'll notice here that my base layers are fairly dark. I am still deciding here to work from dark to light. Now that is going to vary depending on the colour of the dog that I'm working on, the fur texture. There are a couple of different elements there. But for this, I knew I had to get that contrast in place and sharp. That means that I have to make sure I get my black fur as dark as it needs to be, and that my highlights, these greyer details, also look bright on top. Now the only way really to achieve this is to have good contrast. If my black fur is only appearing as a darker grey, everything else on top of that will have to be one shade lighter than it needs to be. What will then happen in the long run is the portrait will look a little bit flatter because the contrast isn't quite where it needs to be. So therefore you need to darken your shadows a little bit more. That will automatically make your brighter details appear more vibrant and lighter. You can see with the base layer that I have not put one solid colour down. Now that's really important. On my Patreon tutorials, I focus a lot on the pet portrait side of things so that members can, if they want to do pet portrait commissions full time, they have a variety of breeds there that will hopefully give them the tips and techniques that they can transfer into their own commissions. Now, throughout those tutorials there, I always put a lot of focus on the base layer stage because it's really important. You can see here that I'm not jumping into my details from the very first layer when I'm using my pastel pencils. I'm still here focusing on refining my shadows and my highlights. One thing that I would like to mention is predominantly I am working from dark to light. As you can see here in this section, I'm getting my base layer here very dark. But with that lighter section above the right eye, I've deliberately added my darker details with my pastel pencils over the top of my lighter base layer. So in this instance, there are going to be some cases where I'm working from, I wouldn't say light to dark, but more of my mid-tone ranges and then building my layers up from there. And as you can see, the additional layer so far has been my darker pencils. I've added some of the shadows on top of this lighter area. Now for me, this is really important and I think it makes quite a big deal in trying to replicate this kind of fur texture. And the reason why I haven't gone down with a darker grey base layer here and then added my lighter details from there and worked from dark to light is because I didn't ever want to run the risk that I couldn't get my brighter details really bright because it was always fighting with a really dark base layer. So my preference in this case was to go down with a mid-tone grey, add my shadows in with my pencils just like what I'm doing here, soften that out and then add some of my highlights on top. Now as these layers progress, you're going to see how this kind of texture with all of these lighter details that overlap the shadows underneath does help to replicate this coarser texture. But what's really important to notice here is I'm not using my brightest pencils. I'm starting off with my mid-tone greys, then using my lighter greys, and then I'll save my white pencils for my last layers. Something else you'll see here as well, I'm only adding in these lighter details more randomly, sort of so that you can see those darker base layers showing through. If I was working on a smoother coated dog, like a Labrador for instance, the layering process would be quite different. But for this texture, I need my pencil details to start being a little bit more varied. They don't all travel in the same way. Some of them will curve over to the left, while others will curve to the right. So one of my biggest tips when you're trying to draw a fur texture like this, where you do have those lighter grey details that almost look like they're sitting right on the very top, is to ignore all of those and leave those to your last layers. You ideally want to be drawing the fur that's closest to the skin and building up from there. Really do study that reference photo as well. Look here how the fur on above the eye is significantly longer than what is going to be on the middle of the face between the eyes and the ears, for instance. I always need to be making sure that I'm paying attention to how long my pencil strokes need to be, depending on the one specific area that I'm working on. This is crucial when we're trying to replicate this kind of fur texture, where there is such a big variation between these short pencil strokes here, like what I'm creating, and as I say, the longer ones that are above the eyes. Something else that I speak about on my slower, often real-time Patreon tutorials is the importance of subtle layers. And this is what I'm doing here. So because the fur between the eyes, it does look really black, it does look really dark, I don't want to just skip out on the texture there. I do still need to indicate at the fur. So here I've gone in with a mid-grey, I'm adding my details on top, and then I'm going to go back in with my lighter greys. Missing and skipping that mid-grey, that darker grey, is really going to affect the type of realism and depth in the fur. Sometimes it's very easy when you've got an area of fur that looks solid black, particularly if you're working with a poor reference photo. This one that I was working from was particularly dark, so there was no actual definition in the fur as such. If I was to have left that like that on the portrait, it is going to make it look like I've skipped past this stage. All I'm doing here is going in with that darker grey to start with to add in some of the indication of the fur, and then going in and adding some of these greyer details on top. Now, one thing that's really important, don't get too carried away when you are adding these tiny details. It's something that I'm guilty of myself, because they do make such a difference to the texture that you're creating. We do have a tendency then to get a bit carried away and draw these lighter details everywhere. Now that of course is going to change what that dog looks like. If you end up making more of these greyer marks than what is seen in the reference photo, you will then ultimately make that dog look older than it is. So for instance, let's say my Maisie is a red Staffordshire Bull Terrier. She is 13 now. She's going great on her muzzle and around her eyes. If I'd have got carried away and started adding more of the greys on the top of her head and like on her muzzle between the eye and the nose and the mouth itself, I'm going to make her look more greyer all over her face. But that's something that's very easy to do, because as I say, we can get very engrossed in these pencil strokes because they do look very realistic, but you do then end up running the risk that you will change what your portrait looks like and comparing that to the reference photo. So that's just something that I do always bear in mind when I am drawing this kind of fur texture or an older dog. Going back to the fur length and how we should be replicating that in our artwork, here is a prime example. Under the eyes on a breed like this, like a Pastel Terrier or a Jack Russell Border Terrier, as I say, that's got more of that wiry fur, usually you're going to have the fur that's slightly shorter directly underneath both eyes. So here I really do want to shorten my pencil strokes to replicate that. Of course, you may have some breeds, some dogs that do have that longer, wiry, coarser fur right under the eye. That's going to be very unique to that animal. If you see that in your reference photo, then of course go ahead and draw it like that. But it's really, really important, I can't stress it enough, to make sure that you are really reducing or lengthening your pencil strokes depending on the part of the portrait that you're working on. Now, the reason why I bring it up often is I don't think it's mentioned enough. We often talk about the fur direction and how accurate that should be, but the fur length can also make a big impact in the overall portrait. If, for instance, I was making the pencil strokes above on the top of the face there too short, I'm not going to make it look like it's got this wiry, coarser, longer fur above the eyes. I'm going to make the fur texture look like he's potentially been clipped or had a haircut and everything's been cut to the same level. Now, yes, of course, that could happen if he did have a haircut, but this dog didn't. And I want to make sure that I replicated that in my drawing. So as I say, fur direction is just as important as the length, and you can see here how I'm switching my hand placement depending on the type of pencil stroke that I want to create. On the much slower Patreon tutorials, where I am moving my hand in a different way to try and create a different pencil stroke, because it is considerably slower footage, I'm able to explain why I'm doing that, and you can see that very easily. But regardless of where I've got my hand positioned, I will usually hold the pencil in the middle of the barrel when I am creating longer lines. The reason being, if you're finding your details are too thick but they also have a grainy appearance and they're showing the tooth of that paper, it's usually because you're applying too much pressure to the pencil. A big tip there would be to hold that pencil in the middle of the barrel. That will force you to put less pressure on that pencil. If you hold that pencil, similar to how I am here, closer to the lead, and your hand is therefore much closer to the paper, you're at more of an acute angle, so you end up putting more pressure on that pencil than you realise. Also, by holding that pencil in the middle or end of that barrel, you are then only able to put a certain amount of pressure on that pencil, just given how much extra length you've got from where your fingers are to where the lead is in contact with the paper. So both of those things will make such a difference to creating those finer, longer lines. So I do just want to include the bridge of the nose here in this tutorial, because here I'm doing what I normally say not to do, and here I'm blocking in with a really solid dark colour. Now the reason being, given the light source of the reference photo that I had, the whole face was really dark. I've made my portrait brighter than what the reference photo showed. I used other photos that I had of the dog to add in more of these greyer details that he had. But the reason why I've gone in with a darker base layer is because the fur on the bridge of the nose was significantly darker than the fur around the eyes. There was nowhere near as much of these individual grey details on the bridge of the nose like other parts of his face. So I had to make sure there that my base layers were really dark in order to get my contrast right. Now, just like with the section between the eyes and on the top of the head, I'm going in with my darker greys to start with. And as I start building my layers, you're going to be able to see that I'm now starting giving form to the face. It's not going to look like I've used one solid base layer. The reason being is most of the highlights are going to be on the top section of the nose, and it's going to get darker to the left and the right hand side. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping these mid-tone highlights, even though they are very subtle, I'm keeping those predominantly more on the top surface. Then I'm going to get gradually lighter with the brighter greys that I'm choosing, just like this one here. But to replicate the texture like what we're trying to get for with this coarser fur type, you'll notice again that I'm only putting these details more sparingly. They're spread apart. It's not like when you would be drawing fur like a German Shepherd or a Labrador. That fur texture is far more consistent, it's more structured, whereas here, because the fur is a little longer, it's going to have a tendency to travel in different directions, like what I've explained previously. So it's really important, especially on the bridge of the nose, that you are drawing the pencil strokes accurately. This is one of the areas where it's going to really influence whether or not the dog's got a wide structure or a narrow structure. If you make your pencil strokes too vertical, you're going to make it look like the face is really long. If you go the opposite and make them far too broad and horizontal, you're going to make the face look a lot wider. So it's really important on this area that you get the fur direction accurate from the beginning. Now, if you've seen more of my tutorials here on YouTube, you'll know that I like working in small areas. There are a few reasons why, but one of them is so that I can focus on the fur direction in that one area. If you're finding that you're getting too overwhelmed or you end up working on multiple pieces and you don't finish anything, it's usually because you're tackling something in too much of a large area. You find yourself getting more sort of looking at the reference photo, not quite knowing what bit you should do next, and it's purely because you're looking at far too much of a larger area. I do then break it down really into a couple of square inch at a time. Once I've got that area about 80% complete, I can then move on to the next. What this also does is it prevents you from being in that ugly stage for far too long. Now, what I mean by the ugly stage is like the muzzle area here to the left and the right of the nose. If I was to do one solid layer for the entire face and leave it like this and then do my second layer, I would get very disheartened very quickly because it's not looking as much like the reference photo as it does when you break it up into small sections, get that area about 80% complete, and then move on to the next. It's a lot more encouraging, and for me, I do find I'm a lot more effective and efficient with how I work. Another big tip as well, when you're working on something like this, the bridge of the nose here at the moment looks unfinished. And yes, I may need to add a couple more layers on top and a few more details. But when you're finding that there's any part of your portrait that you think doesn't look finished or something's niggling at you, you're not quite sure what it is, work on something next to it, like what I am here, the nose and the muzzle, and then come back to it. What usually happens is our brain will start to play tricks on us. We start to think that we're noticing things in the reference photo that we can't see in our artwork, and vice versa, the other way around. So once you start working on another area next to it, usually then that one bit that was staring at you doesn't look as obvious because it's not on its own. You're getting more of the pieces of the puzzle put in place. The only time that I will ignore that and I will go in and make changes is if I know that I've made a mistake. If I know that my proportions or my perspective aren't right, I will go ahead and make those changes early on as soon as I know. Because once you've noticed that, if you then don't change it early on and you carry on from there and think, right, I'll make those changes later, it will then throw off the rest of the portrait. So those are the only times then where I'll make sure that I correct it at the time. So although this technically isn't based on the fur here, I will just mention about the nose. Now this nose in the reference photo was pretty much jet black. You couldn't really see the nostrils and there certainly weren't any highlights. When you're working from a reference photo like that, what you can do is have a look at the photo as a whole and see where that light source is more guided on the left or the right hand side. If you're noticing that the highlight on the eye, for instance, is brighter on the right hand side, what I will usually do is then add more of a subtle highlight to the right side of the nose, just like what I have done on this portrait. What that will do is it will make your artwork look more realistic than the reference photo. So that's just something that I want to quickly mention, because one of the common questions that I was getting from Patreon members is, how do you tackle a portrait when you're working from a poor reference photo? And this is something that I think that all us portrait artists are very frequently faced with. Quite often you'll end up working with lower quality photos than you will better quality. And I think the more that you draw, you do start to become far more confident with taking commissions like that. So what I decided to do, because it was something that I was asked very frequently, is I then created a tutorial which is all in real time on Patreon, and it's working from a poor quality photo. And because it's in real time, I can really explain why I'm making those decisions at the time. Now, the reason why I decided to make that one tutorial real time is because I make decisions sort of more in the moment. When I'm working from a poor quality photo, I will think, right, there's not any highlights here on the nose, I therefore need to do this. So in that instance, I like to make those decisions at the time, and again, that's why I've made that tutorial real time. So if any of my slower tutorials on Patreon are of interest, I will link that in the description below. If you've got any questions about that, pop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer them. And that goes for anything art related. If you've got any, maybe a specific element you're struggling on, or you need any advice with something, pop them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to help. So I really hope the tips and techniques that I've shared in this video are useful. If they were, I'd really appreciate it if you could give the video a thumbs up, because it really does help. And if you'd like to get notified of future content, hit the subscribe and the bell button. And as I've mentioned, if my slower in-depth tutorials in pastels, and I also offer them in acrylics, are of use, I'll link that in the description below. I'm going to be uploading another YouTube video at the weekend, and as always, thank you so much for watching.